Hel- Hello, my name is Cesar Pereira. I'm a fellow and a chartered arbitrator at the CIArb, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And I'm here with my colleague Cristina Mastrobuono, also a fellow, both of us from the CIArb Brazil branch, to welcome you to CIArb Brazil Moment. I would like to thank Arbitration Channel and especially Lauro Parenti for the opportunity to partner, for us to partner with Arbitration Channel and offer you these regular opportunities to meet some of the most renowned international arbitration practitioners in the world. And the purpose of this episode of the CIArb Brazil Moment is what we call Meet the Faculty. We are about to offer our new edition of the Accelerated Route to Fellowship, which is a very intense 1 week program for practitioners and arbitrators that wish to be qualified as fellows of the Chartered Institute. And it's going to take place in São Paulo in person, but also virtually in the first week of October. And we have here with us two of the faculty members that will be here for that opportunity. And before we go into this conversation, I'd like to briefly introduce both of our interviewees. We have here with us Ambassador David Huebner and Professor Jenifer Alfaro Borges. David from Los Angeles and Jenifer from Montevideo in Uruguay. I'd like to briefly talk to you about our guests. And so David Huebner is a very well-known international arbitrator. He has handled more than 300 arbitrations in three dozen jurisdictions around the world. He was based for extended periods in Tokyo, Shanghai, and New York, and now practices from Los Angeles. He has a diverse neutrals practice, but particular expertise in technology, life sciences, media entertainment, and cross-border investment sectors. The Silicon Valley Arbitration and Mediation Center has regularly named him to its tech list of the world's most accomplished technology neutrals. He is, as I mentioned, a chartered arbitrator, a fellow at CIArb, but also a fellow of the College of Commercial Arbitrators. And he's a trustee for the Western Hemisphere in the treasurer of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. As I mentioned in the beginning, Ambassador David Huebner spent 4 years in the diplomatic service in New Zealand and Samoa during the Obama administration. And so welcome, David. And Jenifer Alfaro Borges. She has a doctorate in law and social sciences. She's a lawyer. She's a notary. She's a fellow of the Chartered Institute, professor of commercial law, international sales, and international arbitration, both in undergraduate and graduate programs in Uruguay and also in many other places, including here in Brazil. She's often a guest speaker in conferences here in Brazil. She has written 9 books, more than 90 articles published in specialized reviews. She's a member of the executive board of the International Union Internacional des Avocats. How do you say that in English, Jenifer?
International Association of Lawyers.
Okay. She's a former director of the Association of Lawyers of Uruguay. She's a vice president of the Association of Notaries in Uruguay, and I know she will be soon running for president. And she's also a member of the board of CMYA Lideco, an arbitral institution in Montevideo, and representative of the Dispute Review Board Foundation for Uruguay, and founding partner of Alfabeto Uruguay, her law firm. Well, so welcome again, Jenifer and David, and I'd like to turn to Cristina Mastrobuono, my colleague here from the Brazil branch, to start the conversation with you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to have here Jenifer and Ambassador David, two of our renowned lawyers and arbitrators that will be taking part of our assessment in October. I'm sorry, my voice is not very good today. So my name is Cristina Mastrobuono. I am the vice chair of the Chartered Institute Brazil branch. And I thank you all to be here and give some of your precious time in order to allow us to give more information about what does it mean to take part of the CIArb, what does it mean to be a fellow of the Institute. So I will start my questions with Ambassador David. David, you have had a long involvement with the Chartered Institute and have been the trustee for the Americas since 2019. You were also an ambassador of the US for several years. What can you tell us about CIArb and as an international organization, especially in the Americas?
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Cesar for his incredibly distinguished service as the prior chair of the Brazil branch, which in a very short period of time has become one of the most dynamic and successful in our network. Thank you also to Cristina for being with us, and Dr. Jenifer. It's a delight to share a panel with you. Cristina, I like numbers, so my answer to your question is numeric. The Chartered Institute has just over 17,000 members around the world at the fellow, member, and associate ranks, membership grades. Those members are scattered across 149 countries, and we have significant enough concentrations that we have formally formed more than 45 branches, like the Brazil branch. We currently have 7 branches here in the Americas, and hopefully soon to be an 8th in Peru. So when people ask me about what we look like as an international organization, that's my best answer.
Yes, the numbers are impressive, and it's really one of the things that are most attractive to be a part of the Institute. Jenifer, you are one of the rising stars of the Chartered Institute in the Americas. You became a fellow in 2020 and have had an active participation in the development of CIArb in Latin America. What brought you to the CIArb, and what difference has it made in your professional or academic career so far?
Thank you, Cristina. For me, it's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. I must also thank CIArb and Canal Arbitragem for the invitation. Well, if we think about it, the practice of, as a lawyer, to be in practice, you need to have a law school degree to get a license, and in several countries, even you need to be part of a bar association. But in general, to be an arbitrator, you don't need a special license. This could take us to one big mistake, to consider that every lawyer that have an expertise in one area of law could be a good arbitrator. But international arbitration requires much more than that. And for example, only to give some examples, to give the proper idea, the arbitrator need to manage with a flexible procedure, with taking consideration the mandatory rules of the seat of arbitration, or even parties from different legal cultures. There are only examples of the difficult role of an arbitrator. If, in these terms, validation is really important to select a proper arbitrator. And if you think in validation, we must accept that no so many organizations give what CIArb does. We must face that, because everybody in international arbitration field knows that getting is not easy. Other institutions maybe don't require a special exam to get in. So be part of CIArb, and even more important, to be fellow is not only an honor, give an important message to the world and to your potential clients.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And about actually picking up on what you just said, talking about the process of getting in, which you mentioned is not easy. And I'd like to ask David a question. David, the faculty members at CIArb Fellowship course, they're more discussion leaders than instructors or lecturers. You took part actively in the development of the workshops that are now applied throughout the Americas. What can you tell us about what participants should expect during the ARF?
Thank you, Cesar. The ARF is a very special kind of program, and it's built on the philosophy that what's most valuable is not listening, but participating. So the way it's structured is there is a set scenario about a dispute, and the entire ARF is built around moving you through the arbitration and discussing different problems that could arise at each stage in the proceeding. So it's scenario-based, it's small group and interactive with a small number of plenaries. It's very dynamic. And it deals with actual problems that those of us who helped draft the ARF have encountered. So you will be engaged in conversation with peers and with experienced arbitrators about actual issues you will encounter if you sit as an arbitrator. Now, in addition to that, there is plenty of time for conversation with the tutors, who are uniformly very experienced arbitrators themselves. So even outside of the formal scenarios and discussions, there is plenty of opportunity for asking your own questions one-on-one, and for getting whatever advice you'd like to get from people who may already be 10 or 20 years into serving as neutrals.
Thank you. And Jennifer, now picking up on something David had said before, we always say that when you join CIArb, you become part of this large network of 17,000 professionals in 149 countries, which has been growing since 1915. And I know that's true for you in Uruguay, and it's certainly true for us here in Brazil. International exposure in recognition, validation, as you mentioned, are some of the benefits of CIArb membership. And I'd like to know that in your experience, how real is the international exchange within the CIArb network?
Thank you, Cesar. Yes, you become part of a community. and then that give you access to different courses and events that get you updated. You receive invitations all the time, but you also can easily get secure data from different jurisdictions through other fellows. And even more important, you can be recommended or even appointed by them as an arbitrator. In fact, you can say that CIArb membership extends your field of action to other countries. We all know that it's so important to be a good arbitrator, but also to be known by your potential clients. And potential clients are not only companies or businessmen, but also colleagues, other lawyers, other arbitrators that look for prestigious arbitrators. You must realize that counselors of the parties are very involved in the selection of the arbitrators and never are considered responsible for this choice. So if those colleagues, those counselors propose a fellow of CIArb, they can justify their recommendation.
Thank you, Jennifer. Considering what you just explained to us, it's important to know other lawyers, and we know also which CIArb can offer us through the networking it provides. And there are also some experienced professionals. David, this question is for you. So that many participants of the ARF are experienced professionals, sometimes well established in their careers in law or other areas. So considering that the process to become a fellow is very challenging, so what do you think that attracts these experienced professionals into it?
Thank you, Cristina. And I'm glad that I kept my first answer short, because the rest of my first answer answers this question. And I think there are three things. One of them is the fellowship credential is globally recognized. Wherever you go on the planet, if you've got CIArb fellow at the end of your name, people are going to make positive assumptions about you and your skill set. And I'll tell you, as a personal matter, when I was a junior associate in a big law firm and had decided to enter international arbitration, one of the first things I did at my own expense was travel to London for 2 weeks and take the full course there. And it was the best money I ever spent at that stage in my career. Number two, the global network, and you've heard that referenced a couple of times. But that's not just a theoretical construct. The other thing I did as a lawyer, beginning to be interested in being an advocate and then a neutral, whenever I traveled, I looked up on the Chartered Institute website who the members were from that location, and I would send them, a few of them, emails just saying, I'm going to be in town, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I've never had a Chartered Institute member say no. And as somebody just entering the field, it was golden. And I'll tell you, one of the people I met that way was Neil Kaplan, who is one of the living gods of arbitration. And Neil responded and said, sure, come by my office. And that has made all the difference in the world. Number three, the ARF itself is a reason so many seasoned professionals take the fellowship, go through the fellowship process. And in North America, in the Canadian, New York, and essentially US branches, we have a lot of judges, litigation, superior and federal court judges take the program because they're preparing for a career change. And even with all their experience, they uniformly report that they found the process very valuable in crafting their expectations and giving them the real skills that they need if they do make that jump.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Jenifer.
Cristina, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Cristina, I forgot one thing. It just dawned on me. One of the things we've been doing on the trustees in the last few years is actively marketing the fellow credential to other arbitration institutions. And there are now several international arbitration institutions that will accept the fellowship grade as evidence that the person holding the fellowship grade is skilled enough to be on that arbitral institution's panel of arbitrators. And I think that's a very valuable and important development. Sorry.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. This is a very important information. And now, Jenifer, turning to another important part and resources that CIArb provides us. So CIArb is known for its guidelines and other resources to promote best practices. Do you think the Chartered Institute guidelines, protocols, and other resources have been useful in your practice and academic work?
Yes, sure. If you look for a pragmatic answer to face different issues in arbitration, you will probably find it in CIArb guidelines, not only from the perspective of the arbitrators, but also for the practitioners that are counselors of the parties. CIArb guidelines reflects the best practices in the arbitration field. Since I must confess that since I became member and later fellow of CIArb, I started to check the guidelines to solve different situations. And I must tell you that you will find there many recommendations that are applicable to different jurisdictions. If you allow me, I invite the audience to confirm it accessing to the CIArb website.
Thank you, Jenifer. Yeah, it's interesting to highlight that one of those guidelines, the guideline on witness conferencing, actually won the Global Arbitration Review Award in 2020 as the best innovation that year, and it's remarkable. If you ever need to do like hot tubbing, that's definitely something that you should look at to structure it correctly. Well, thank you. And I'd like to ask you a question, a follow-up question here. In 2021, CIArb started to implement what's called its global 3-year strategy to advance diversity, inclusion, sustainability, and other goals. In your opinion, how much have we improved, and how confident are you in the success of this effort?
Thank you, Cesar, for the question. I really think that a very important step is to go on making the right questions. We must go on working on that. Even if we recognize several efforts from arbitration community in this field, it's crucial to understand that it's not enough yet. Thanks to the work of universities, some law firms, and other research groups, we have some figures, and statistics shows that the appointment of female arbitrator is slowly increasing, but in general, as the result of the efforts of arbitral institutions that have an explicit policy on diversity. If we analyze geographical diversity in the choice, in the selection of arbitrators, there is a lot to be done. And in this field, the role of CIArb is very important because being a CIArb member gives us the opportunity to meet colleagues of other parts of the world and then to understand how diversity, in this case, geographical diversity, could contribute to the quality of international arbitration.
Thank you, Jenifer. David, just one final question for you. International arbitration is in the spotlight. There are talks of reforms in the investor-state dispute settlement system. The Halliburton case in the UK raised discussions about disclosure and conflicts of interest. How do you see CIArb's role in the development and improvement of arbitration, international arbitration institutionally?
I believe the Chartered Institute, Cesar, has a very large role to play. I would note that earlier, we've been around for almost 150 years. Earlier in our history, the Chartered Institute was the thought leader in the arbitration sector. That mantle has moved on to others in recent years. But if you look at the strategic plan, which the Institute's Board of Trustees approved and implemented beginning a year ago, you will see that one of the primary goals is to reestablish that thought leadership position. The guidances and best practices that both Dr. Jenifer and Cesar mentioned are part of that process. There are other areas in consideration where there are not existing guidelines on best practices. So we're going to be moving in that direction. The only other thing I would say, building on something Dr. Jenifer said, is because of the inherent diversity of our large global membership, we have a particularly important role to play in bringing appropriate diversity to arbitration panels and even advocate groups. And that is another one of the pillars of the strategic plan. My own view of the topic of diversity is it's time to stop talking about it. It's not building a colony on Mars. It's doing the correct, commercially sensible thing. And we need to view it as an engineering challenge because that's what it is. It's not a rhetorical device. And you will see the Chartered Institute increasingly taking steps to create organic diversity throughout our network, and that's long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And well, with this, we are coming to the end of our program. I would like to, before we close, I would like to invite all of you to look up the fellowship program on our websites, on social media. Just follow us, the CIArb Brazil branch, in any of these channels, and learn about the fellowship program that will be offered in October the 3rd through the 7th. I would also like to invite all of you to keep following us here on CIArb Brazil Moment at Arbitration Channel. Our next episode will be on September the 14th, same time, 6:30 p.m. Brasilia time. And we will have here two state attorneys, one Brazilian federal government attorney who is a fellow of the Chartered Institute, and the other São Paulo state attorney who is a member of the Chartered Institute. And they will both talk about the benefits and the reasons why state attorneys should become involved with CIArb. With this, thank you again, David Huebner, Jenifer Alfaro Borges, for being here with us and sharing your knowledge and your experience here with our audience. Thank you, Cristina, again for the partnership in this program. And I wish all of you a good night and see you next time. Thank you.